Hello everyone, this is Pooja Rawat. Welcome again. Today we are going to start our history lesson 4 Tribals, Duke and the Vision of a Golden Age. In this chapter we will read about Tribal, Duke and the Vision of Golden Age. First of all, I want to revise a short topic. Listen. We all know that in 1895 a man named Birsa Munda was seen roaming the forest and village of Chota Nagpur in Bihar. Birsa Munda was a famous freedom fighter and he also known as a freedom fighter also. People said he had marvelous power and he had miraculous power. He could cure all disease and multiply grain. Birsa himself declared that God had appointed him to save his people from trouble and free them from the slavery of dukes, means outsider. Soon thousands began following Birsa, believing that he was Bhagwan, means God, and had come to solve all their problem. Birsa was born in a family of Mundas, a tribal group that lived in Chota Nagpur. Means Munda is a name of a tribal group who lives in a Chota Nagpur Pathar. आपने इसके बारे में सुना होगा. There is a Pathar also. But his followers include other tribals of the region, Santhal and Oraons. Santhal and Oraons also some tribal groups. All of them in different way were unhappy with the change they were experiencing and the problem they were facing under British rule. Their families' ways of life seemed to be disappearing. Their livelihood and under threat, and their religion appeared to be in danger. What problem did Birsa set out to resolve, and who were the outsider being referred to as Dikus, and how did they enslave the people of the region? What was happening to the tribal people under the British, and how did their life change? These are the some of the question you will read about in this chapter. Means हम पढ़ेंगे कि जब ब्रिटिश रूल स्टार्ट हुआ, ब्रिटिश ने रूल करना स्टार्ट किया इंडिया पे, तो जो कॉमन पीपल थे, जो नॉर्मल पीपल थे, उनको तो प्रॉब्लम्स फेस करनी पड़ रही थी. बट जो ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स थे उनकी प्रॉब्लम्स अलग थी. उनको तो डायरेक्टली स्लेव बना दिया जाता था. तो उनकी प्रॉब्लम्स के बारे में है ये चैप्टर बेसिकली. यू हैव रीड अबाउट ट्राइबल सोसाइटीज़ लास्ट ईयर. हमने पढ़ा था 7th क्लास में ट्राइबल सोसाइटीज़ के बारे में. इंडिया में जो डिफरेंट ट्राइबल सोसाइटीज़ रहती थी उनके बारे में. मोस्ट ट्राइब्स हैज़ customs and rituals that were very different from those laid down by Brahmins. हमने 7th क्लास में पढ़ा था कि in India people were divided into in caste. Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, 4 caste, and tribals were lower than Shudra. They were considered lower than Shudra, and these societies also did not have the sharp social division that were characteristics of caste societies. हमने ये भी पढ़ा था 7th क्लास में कि नॉर्मल पीपल जो थे वो 4 पार्ट्स में डिवाइडेड थे और ट्राइबल्स को उनसे भी ज़्यादा लो कास्ट माना जाता था. लेकिन ट्राइबल्स के अंदर कोई डिवीज़न नहीं था. ट्राइबल्स की जो सोसाइटी होती थी उसमें वो लोगों को कास्ट वाइज डिवाइड नहीं करते थे. सब ही इक्वली होते थे. They all were equal, and all those who belonged to the same tribe thought of themselves as sharing common ties and kinship. However, this did not mean that there were no social and economic difference within tribes. Means हर tribes में थोड़े बहुत economic differences, social differences भी होते थे. सबसे पहले हम पढ़ेंगे how did tribal groups live. वो रहते कैसे थे. By the 19th century, tribal people in different parts of India were involved in the variety of activities. Some were झूम कल्टिवेटर्स. झूम कल्टिवेटर और झूम कल्टिवेशन के बारे में हमने पढ़ा ही था. झूम कल्टिवेशन में जिसको बर्निंग एग्रीकल्चर भी बोलते हैं. सबसे पहले हम यहाँ पे कुछ वर्ड्स दिए हुए हैं उनके बारे में पढ़ेंगे. These words are fallow. You can see in left side of the screen, fallow, a field left uncultivated for a while so that the soil recover fertility. It's called fallow. Second is sal. Sal, name of a tree. And mahua. Mahua is a flower that is eaten or used to make alcohol. So, what is jhum cultivation? Jhum cultivation, some of them practice jhum cultivation, that is shifting cultivation also, और burning cultivation भी बोला जाता है जूम की खेती. This was done on small patches of land, mostly in forest. The cultivators cut the tree tops to allow sunlight to reach the ground and burn the vegetation on the land to clear it for cultivation. They spread the ash from the firing, which contained potash and fertilize the soil. They used the axe to cut trees and the hoe to scratch the soil in order to prepare it for cultivation. They broadcast the seeds that is scattered the seeds on the field instead of plugging the land and sowing the seeds. Once the crop was ready and harvested, they moved to another field. A field that had been cultivated once was left fallow for several years. Shifting cultivators were found in the hilly and forested tracts of northeast and central India. अभी भी ये होते हैं. ये लोग क्या करते हैं, एक बार अपनी एक लैंड पे एग्रीकल्चर करते हैं, खेती करते हैं, उस पर अपना एग्रीकल्चर प्रोसेस फॉलो करते हैं, उसके बाद उसको पूरी तरह से खाली छोड़ दिया जाता है, उसको यूज़ नहीं किया जाता, उसको फैलो रहने देते हैं ताकि वो अपनी फर्टिलिटी को रीगेन कर सके लैंड. कंटिन्यूसली उस पर वो एग्रीकल्चर नहीं करते, कंटिन्यूसली उस पर वो अपना कल्टीवेशन नहीं करते हैं, उसको छोड़ देते हैं 1 ईयर के लिए. एंड देन उस पर जितनी भी एक्स्ट्रा वीड्स ग्रो करती है उसको जला दिया जाता है, और जो ऐश बचती है, जो मतलब उसकी राख बचती है, उसमें बहुत ज़्यादा पोटास होता है जो कि पौधों के लिए बहुत ही अच्छा होता है, और उसमें बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छा, जिसमें वीड बचते हैं, सीड्स एक्स्ट्रा बचते हैं, उसको वो पूरी तरह से जला देते हैं और उस राख को भी छोड़ देते हैं. देन जो लैंड होती है वो रिगेन करती है अपनी फर्टिलिटी, और नेक्स्ट ईयर वो उस पर दोबारा से कल्टीवेशन स्टार्ट करते हैं. द लाइव्स ऑफ दीज ट्राइबल पीपल डिपेंड्स ऑन फ्री मूवमेंट विद इन फॉरेस्ट एंड ऑफ बीइंग एबल टू यूज़ द लैंड एंड फॉरेस्ट फॉर ग्रोइंग देयर क्रॉप्स. दैट इज़ ओनली वे दे कुड प्रैक्टिस शिफ्टिंग कल्टीवेशन. सम वर हंटर एंड गैदरर. तो कुछ जो हमारे कुछ ट्राइबल सोसाइटीज़ होती थी उनका काम होता था शिफ्टिंग कल्टीवेशन का. शिफ्टिंग कल्टीवेशन, और इसके अलावा कुछ थे वो जो क्या करते थे, हंटर्स होते थे और गैदरर्स होते थे. हंटिंग के थ्रू जो है वो अपना सोशल लाइफ चलाते थे. सो इन फिगर 2 यू कैन सी दैट डोंगरीज कंधा वुमेन इन ओडिशा टेक होम पांधुन्स लीव्स फ्रॉम द फॉरेस्ट टू मेक प्लेट्स. दीज आर द पांधनुस लीव. जैसे कि ये इन लीव्स से प्लेट्स बनती हैं जिस पे कि वो लोग फेस्टिवल्स में या कभी भी अपने फूड्स के लिए होती हैं, उनके खाने के लिए होती हैं, ईटिंग के लिए, ईटिंग पर्पज़ के लिए प्लेट्स यूज़ होती हैं. तो ये इन प्लेट्स को बनाती हैं. सम वर hunters and gatherers. In many regions, tribal groups lived by hunting animals. By gathering forest produce, they saw forest as essential for survival. The Khons, we have read about Khons, was such a community living in the forest of Orissa. They regularly went out on collective hunts and then divided the meat amongst themselves. They ate fruits and roots collected from the forest and cooked food with the oil they extracted from the seeds of the sal and mahua. So matlab they were totally dependent on forest. Everything for their living, they were everything getting from the forest. They used many forest herbs and herbs for medicinal purpose and sold forest produce in local market. The local weavers and leather workers turned to the Khons when they needed supplies to kusum and palas flower to color their clothes and leather. From where did these forest people get their supplies of rice and other grains? अब इन्हीं चीज़ों पे तो डिपेंडेंट नहीं रह सकते ट्राइबल्स कि सिर्फ राइस और फ्लोर के लिए उनको कॉमन पीपल्स पे या अदर जो सोसाइटी होती थी, नॉर्मल सोसाइटी पे डिपेंडेंट रहना पड़ता था. सब कुछ ही तो फॉरेस्ट से नहीं मिलेगा. तो फ्रॉम ये सब चीज़ें वो कहाँ से इकट्ठा करते थे? फ्रॉम वेयर डिड दोज फॉरेस्ट पीपल गेट देयर सप्लाईज ऑफ राइस एंड अदर ग्रेन्स? एट टाइम दे एक्सचेंज फूड. वो एक्सचेंज करते थे getting what they needed in return for their valuable forest produce. At other time, they bought goods with the small amount of earning they had. Some of them did odd jobs in the villages, carrying load to building roads, while others labored in the field of peasants and farmers. When supplies of forest produce shrunk, tribal people had to increasingly wander around the search of work as laborers. What many of them, like the Baghis and Central India, were reluctant to do work for others. The Begas saw themselves as people of the forest and who could only live in the produce of the forest. It was below to dignity of a बेगा टू बिकम अ लेबरर. मतलब बेगा पीपल वो तैयार नहीं होते थे कि वो उन्हें लेबर बनना है, वो टोटली डिपेंड करते थे फॉरेस्ट पे. एंड ट्राइबल ग्रुप ऑफन नीडेड टू बाय एंड सेल इन ऑर्डर टू एबल टू गेट द गुड्स that were not produced within the locality. This led to their dependence on traders and moneylenders. Traders come around with things for sale and sold the good at high price. Moneylenders gave loan with which the tribals made their cash needs, adding what they earned, but the interest charged on the loan was usually very high. So for the tribals, market and commerce often meant debt and poverty. They therefore came to see the moneylender and trader as evil outsider and the cause of their misery. In figure 3, location of some tribal group in India, you can see that this is the figure 3. कहाँ पे कौन सी ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स मिलते थे इंडिया में. यू कैन सी दैट गद्दीज वन, गुज्जर्स, सहारीज, भोटिया, बंजाराज, ये सब ट्राइबल्स हैं जो इंडिया में कहाँ पे कौन से ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स मिलते थे. माला इरूलर. सम हर्डेड एनिमल. सम ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स, उनका क्या काम होता था, वो एनिमल्स हर्डिंग करते थे. मैनी ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स lived by herding and rearing animals. They were pastoralists who moved with their herds of cattle or sheep according to the season. When the grass in one place was exhausted, they moved to other area. The Van Gujjar of the Punjab hills and the Labadis of Andhra Pradesh were cattle herder, and the Gaddis of Kullu were shepherds, and the Bakkarwals of Kashmir reared goats. You will read more about them in your history book next year. We will read about it. A time to hunt, a time to sow, a time to move to a new field. This is a small note. We will read about it. This is figure 4. A Santhal girl carrying firewood, Bihar, 1946 की पिक्चर है ये. Children go with their mother to the forest to gather forest produce. Have you ever noticed that people living in different type of society do not share the same notion of work at time? हर कोई अलग काम करता है. The lives of the shifting cultivators and hunters in different regions were regulated by the calendar and division of tasks for men and women. Warrior Elwin, a British anthropologist who lived among the Begas and Khons of central India for many years in the 1930s and 1940s, give us a picture of what this calendar and division of tasks was like. He writes, a chaste woman went to clearing to cut stalk that were already reaped. Men cut large trees and go for their ritual hunt. The hunt began at full moon from the east. Traps of bamboo were used for hunting. The women gathered fruit like sago, tamarind and mushroom. Bega women can only gather roots or kanda and mahua seeds. For all the Adivasis in central India, the Begas were known as the best hunter. The Baisakh, the firing of the forest took place. The women gathered unburnt wood to burn. Men continued to hunt, but nearer their village in Jeth, ये months के नेम हिंदी में दिए हैं, बैसाख, जेठ. In Jeth, showing took place. The hunting still went on. Hunting पूरे ईयर चलती थी, but cultivation जेठ के महीने में. Asad and Bhado, the men worked in the field, and in Kaur, the first fruit of bean were ripened, and the Kartik become ripe. In Aghan, every crop was ready, and the Poos winnowing took place. Poos was also the time for dance and marriage because ये ठंड का टाइम होता था. इसमें कुछ कल्टीवेशन का काम या कुछ भी रेयरिंग हंटिंग नहीं हो सकती ठंड के मौसम में. और इन माघ शिफ्टिंग वर मेड टू न्यू बीवेयर एंड हंटिंग गैदरिंग वॉज द मेन subsistence activity. The cycle described above took place in the first year. In the second year, there was more time for hunting as only a few crops had to be shorn and harvested. But since there was enough food, the man lived in the beware. It was only in the third year that the diet had to be supplemented with the forest products. So this was their life activities and their social activities that they were doing for their living. And some took to settle cultivation. Even before the 19th century, many from within the tribal groups had begun settling down and cultivating their fields in one place year after year. Instead of moving from place to place, they began to use plug and gradually got rights over the land they lived on. In many cases, like the Mundas of Chota Nagpur, the land belonged to the clan as a whole. All members of the clan were regarded as descendants of the original settlers who had first cleared the land. Therefore, all of them had right on the land. Very often, some people within the clan acquired more power than others. Some became chief and other followers. Powerful men often rented on their land instead of cultivating it themselves. British officials saw settled tribal groups like the Gonds and Santhals as more civilized than hunter-gathering and shifting cultivation. Those who lived in the forest were considered to be wild and savage. They needed to be settled and civilized. This is a figure 5, a log house being built in a village in the Nishi tribal of the northeast. How did colonial rule affect tribal lives? Means British चाहते थे कि ये जो people हैं, जो ये tribals हैं, ये shift हो जाएं एक जगह पे, civilized इन्हें करना चाहते थे. And the lives of tribal group changed during British rule. Let us see what these changes were. What happened to tribal chiefs? हर tribal का एक chief होता था जो कि उनको बताता था कि कौन से rules follow होंगे, किस तरह से वो लोग अपनी lifestyle रखेंगे. So before the arrival of British, in many areas the tribal chiefs were important people. They enjoyed certain amount of economic power and had a right to administrate the control their territories. In some place they had their own police and decided to the local rules of land and forest management. Under British rule, the function and power of the tribal chief changed considerably. They were allowed to keep their land titles over a cluster of village and rent out lands. But they lost much of their administrative power and were forced to follow laws made by British officials in India. They also had to pay tribute to the British and disciplined and tribal group on behalf of the British. They lost the authority they had earlier enjoyed among their people and were unable to fulfill their traditional function. What happened to the shifting cultivators? The British were uncomfortable with groups who moved about and did not have a fixed home. They wanted tribal group to settle down and become peasant cultivator. ये देखिए यहाँ पे एक पिक्चर है. This is a picture of figure 6. Bhil women cultivating in a forest in Gujarat. These are the Bhil women. तो वो चाहते थे कि जितने भी ट्राइबल हैं वो शिफ्ट होके एक जगह पे कल्टीवेशन करें ताकि उनको क्या मिले, टैक्स उनसे मिल सके. Settled peasants were easier to control and administrate than people who were always on the move. The British also wanted a regular revenue source of the state, so they introduced land settlement. That is, they measured the land, defined the right of each individual to the land, and fixed the revenue demand of the state. Some peasants were declared landowner, other tenants. As you have seen chapter 2, the tenants were pay rent to the landowners, who is in turn paid revenue to the state. The British effort to settle Jhum cultivators, was not very successful. Settled plug cultivation is not easy in areas where water is scarce. and the soil is dry. In fact, Jhum cultivators who looked to plug cultivation often suffered since their field did not produce good yield. So the Jhum cultivators in northeast India, instead of continuing with their traditional practice, facing widespread protest, the British had to ultimately allow them to right to carry the shifting cultivation in some part of the forest. Figure 7, tribal worker in a rice field in Andhra Pradesh. फॉरेस्ट लॉ एंड देयर इम्पैक्ट मीन्स अब उनकी लाइफ में वो लोग इंटरफेयर करने लगे थे. ब्रिटिशर्स वो चाहते थे कि हमारे अकॉर्डिंग अपने लाइफस्टाइल को चेंज करें. देयर इज़ अ वर्ड स्लीपर्स, द हॉरिजॉन्टल प्लैंक्स ऑफ वुड ऑन विच रेलवे लाइन्स आर लेड. फॉरेस्ट लॉ एंड देयर इम्पैक्ट. द लाइफ ऑफ ट्राइबल ग्रुप, एज यू हैव सीन, was directly connected to the forest, so changes in forest law had a considerable effect on tribal lives. The British extended their control over all forest and declared that forest was state property. Some forests were classified as reserved forest, so they produced timber which the British wanted. In these forests, people were not allowed to move freely, practice Jhum cultivation, collect fruit, and hunt animals. How were Jhum cultivators to survive in such a situation? Many were therefore forced to move to other areas in search of work and livelihood. But once the British stopped the tribal people from living inside forests, they faced a problem. From where would the forest department get its labor to cut trees or railway sleepers and the transport logs? Colonial officials came up with a solution. They decided that they would give Jhum cultivators small patches of land in the forest and allow them to cultivate these on the condition that those who lived in the village would have to provide labor to the forest department and look after the forest. So in many regions, the forest department established forest village to ensure a regular supply of cheap labor. Many tribal groups reacted against the colonial forest law. They disobeyed the new rules, continued with practice that were declared illegal, and at times rose in open rebellion. Such was the revolt of Sangram Sangama in 1906 in Assam and Forest Satyagraha in 1930 in the Central Province. मीन्स ब्रिटिशर्स चाहते थे कि अब उनको हर जगह से टैक्स मिले, फॉरेस्ट से टैक्स मिले, पीपल उन्हें टैक्स दे, रेवेन्यू दें. सो वो चाहते थे कि लोग सेटल हो जाएं. फॉरेस्ट पर उन्होंने टैक्स लगा तो सबसे ज़्यादा नुकसान होता था ट्राइबल कम्युनिटी को, बिकॉज दे वर टोटली डिपेंड ऑन फॉरेस्ट एंड दे वर टोटली डिपेंड ऑन फॉरेस्ट. So they can't live without forest resources, and if they have to pay for the everything, for the timber, for the food, for the fruits, vegetable, then how can they afford this? This is a short note. In this land of the English, how hard is to live. In 1930s, Varis Elwin visited to land on the Bagis and tribal group in central India. He wanted to know about them, Begas, their customs and practice, their art and folklore. मतलब वो जानना चाहते थे किस तरह से ट्राइबल्स रहते हैं. He recorded many songs and lamented hard times and Begas were having under British rule. This is a poem. In this land of English, how hard it is to live, how hard it is to live, how hard it is to live. In the village sits the landlord, in the gate sits the kotwar, in the garden sits the patwari, and the land sits the government. In the field sits the government. In this land of the English, how hard it is to live. To pay cattle tax, we have to sell cow. To pay forest tax, we have to sell buffalo. To pay land tax, we have to sell bullocks. And how are we to get our food in this लैंड ऑफ द इंग्लिश. मीन्स आप देख सकते हो कितनी प्रॉब्लम होती थी. हर चीज़ के लिए उनको टैक्स देना पड़ता था और टैक्स पे करने के लिए उनको चीज़ बेचनी ही पड़ती थी. द प्रॉब्लम विद ट्रेड. अब उनके ट्रेड्स की भी प्रॉब्लम होती थी. ड्यूरिंग द 19th century, ट्राइबल ग्रुप फाइंड दैट ट्रेडर्स एंड मनी लेंडर्स वर कमिंग into the forest more often, wanting to buy forest produce, offering cash loan and asking them to work for wages. It took tribal groups some time to understand the consequence of what was happening. Let us consider the case of the silk growers in 18th century. Indian silk was in demand in Europe market, and the fine quality of Indian silk was highly valued, and export from India increased rapidly. As the market expanded, East India Company official tried to encourage silk production to meet the growing demand. Hazaribagh in present-day Jharkhand was an area where the Santhal reared cocoon. The traders dealing in silk sent in their agent who gave loan to the tribal people and collect the cocoons in growers and paid rupees 3 and rupees 4 for the 1,000 cocoons. These were then exported to Burdwan or Gaya, where they were sold at 5 times the price, 5 गुना ज़्यादा बेचते थे, and the middleman, so called because they arranged deal between the exports and silk growers, made huge profits. The silk grower earned very little, understandably. Many tribal groups saw the market and the traders as their main enemies. Here you can see these two pictures. Figure 9, a Hajang woman weaving a mat and her baby in her back. She is carrying her baby also. And figure 10, coal miners in Bihar 1948. You can see their condition in the British India time. The search for work. The plight of the tribals who had to go far away from their homes in search of work was even worse. From late 19th century, tea plantations started coming up and mining became an important industry. Tribal were recruited in large number of work. The tea plantation of Assam and the coal mines of Jharkhand, they were recruited through contractors who paid them miserably low wages and prevented them from returning home. A closer look. Through the 19th and 20th century, tribal groups in different part of the country rebels against the changes. सभी tribal groups ने इसके against rebel करना start कर दिया. अब tribal groups जो है इन सब चीज़ों के साथ नहीं रहना चाहते थे. The restriction on their practice, the new taxes they had to pay, and the exploitation by traders and moneylenders. The Coles rebelled in 1831 to 32. Santhals rose in revolt in 1855, and the Bastra rebellion in Central India broke out in 1910, and the Warli revolts in Maharashtra in 1940. The movement of Birsa led was one such movement. Birsa Munda जो है इनमें सबसे famous movement रहा. Birsa was born in the mid 1870s, the son of a poor father. He grew up around the forest of Bohonda, grazing sheep, playing the flute and dancing in the local akharas. Forced by poverty, his father had to move from place to place looking for work. As an adolescent, Birsa heard tales of the Mundas uprising of the past and saw the Sirdars, leaders of the community, urging the people to revolt. They talk of a golden age when the Mundas had been free and oppression of Dikus, and said there would be a time when the ancestral right of the community would be restored. They saw themselves as the descendants of the original settlers of the region, fighting for their land. मुल्क की लड़ाई मीन्स अब उन्होंने अपनी हिस्ट्री जानी, अपने पास्ट के बारे में जाना, तो बिरसा के मन में बहुत ही ज़्यादा इसके अगेंस्ट फीलिंग आई कि हमें भी अपने लिए फ़ाइट करनी होगी. बिरसा वेंट टू द लोकल मिशनरीज स्कूल एंड लिसन टू द sermons of missionaries. There too he heard it said that it was possible for the Mundas to attain the kingdom of heaven and reason their lost right. And this would be possible if they became good Christian and gave up their bad practice. Later, Birsa also spent some time in company of a prominent Vaishnav preachers. He wore the scared thread and began to value the importance of purity and pity. Birsa was deeply influenced by many of ideas he came to touch with his growing up year. His movement was aimed at reforming tribal society. He urged the Munda to give up drinking liquor, clean their village, and stop believing in witchcraft and sorcery. But we must remember that Birsa also turned against the missionaries and Hindu landlords. He saw them as outside force that were running the Munda's way of life. In 1895, Birsa urged his followers to recover their glories past. चाहता था कि जैसे पहले रहते थे वैसे ही रहें. He talked of a golden age in the past, a Satyug, an age of truth, when Mundas lived a good life, constructed embankment, tapped natural springs, planted trees and orchards, practiced cultivation to earn their living. They did not kill their brethren and relatives. They lived honestly. Birsa also wanted people to once again work in their own land, settle down and cultivate their fields. What worried Birsa officially most was the political aim of the Birsa movement, for it wanted to drive out missionaries, moneylender, Hindulander and the government and set up a Munda Raj with Birsa at its head. The movement identified all these forces as the cause of the misery and Munda were suffering. The land policies of the British were destroying their traditional land system. Hindu landlord and moneylender were taking over their land and missionaries were criticizing their traditional culture. So Birsa was against them. As the movement spread, the British officials decided to act. They arrested Birsa in 1895, convicted him on charge of rioting and jailed him 2 years. When Birsa was released in 1897, he began touring the village to gather support. He used traditional symbol and language to rouse people, urging them to destroy Ravana, Duke and the Europeans and establish a kingdom under his leadership. DQs एंड द यूरोपियंस को उसने रावण बोला था कि जो बाहर से आए हैं हमें इनको मारना होगा, इनको भगाना होगा. Birsa's follower began targeting the symbol of DQs and European power. They attacked police station and churches and raided the poverty of moneylenders and zamindars. They raised the white flag as a symbol of Birsa Raj. In 1900, Birsa died of cholera and the movement faded out. However, the movement was significant in at least 2 ways. First, it forced the colonial government to introduce law so that the land of the tribal could not be easily taken over by DQs. Second, it showed again that the tribal people had the capacity to protest against injustice and express their anger against colonial rule. They did this in their own specific way, inventing their own ritual and symbol of struggle. So स्टार्टिंग में हमने पढ़ा था कि चैप्टर का नाम था ट्राइबल्स, डिकूज एंड द विजन ऑफ गोल्डन एज. ट्राइबल्स थे, डिकूज कहा गया था ब्रिटिशर्स को, एंड द विजन ऑफ गोल्डन एज जिसको बिरसा मुंडा वापस लाना चाहते थे कि हमारा एक गोल्डन एज था, हम डिकूज यानी ब्रिटिशर्स के अगेंस्ट फाइट करके अपने टाइम को वापस लेके आएंगे.